everybody, my name is Benjamin Bloom, and I'm back once again for this weekend's championship preview. Feels like it's been a quiet week after that game week we had before, and there's another one coming up as we head towards international break number 2 on October the 7th. 12 games will have been played by then, and we can really start to see how the championship is panning out. What I will say is, at this stage, the leaders normally have more points. Normally, they say the 2 points per game is the holy grail, the 92 across the season. Normally, over that first 10-15 games, there's a handful of teams who manage to get above that, but we only have 2 teams on 18 points after 9 games. A lot of teams with 5 wins, nobody with more than that, so perhaps no outstanding candidate. It's there for whoever is going to go on that brilliant run of 8 wins in a row or whatever that we saw, say, Cardiff do in the spring last season. I think if you do that, you're in with a real chance, because there doesn't seem to be a standout team. But the team at the moment that is top is Leeds United, who had that surprise defeat against Birmingham last weekend. They're going away to Sheffield Wednesday, who lie in 10th, who, as you know if you've watched these videos before, have confused me greatly this season. It's a Friday night game, under the lights, a Yorkshire derby. Leeds, it had all been fantastic under Bielsa until this past week we've had, whereby you had the late draw at Millwall, a win against Preston, and then the defeat. So only 1 point in the last 3. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. 4 points in the last 3 for Leeds, but a slight drop off there. Are they going to do it? I'm not so sure. So I've backed Leeds to win the past 3, and obviously only won one of them. So let's go for a draw tonight. Let's assume that the Yorkshire derby and the fact that it's away from home is going to work in Wednesday's favour, and we will go for a draw there, and I'll see if I can continue to dodge the correct result when it comes to Leeds. Second place Middlesbrough have got an interesting week, because they're going to be looking at 9 points at the start of this week. So Borough away at Hull, who are in 21st. I saw Hull play against Ipswich. They beat Ipswich, but Hull are not very good, and they were beaten quite handily at Reading this past weekend. So 21st against 2nd. Borough's week is Hull away, Ipswich away, and then Forest at home. So you've got 2 teams away from home quite low down, and you can tick off 2 away games there. And Forest, who are not very free scoring coming at the end of the week. I think Pulis is going to be looking at least 7 points for this week, and with 2 away games in the week, that would be fantastic for them. I can see Borough dispatching Hull fairly handily in Humberside there. So I'm going to go for an away win, and hopefully they'll go easy on Ipswich on Tuesday. Hey, Preston, still, they've gone down to bottom now, in fact below my team Ipswich, against West Brom, who have been installed as the bookies' favourites. Now the bookies are looking for somebody, and I assume they're taking a lot of money on West Brom. I've said it before, Barnes, Gale, Rodriguez, that is very dangerous in the Championship. Preston, I don't know what's gone on. Had some good comments back on these videos from Preston fans. Always smarten me up if you can. It's just not clicking for them this season. There's going to be goals in this game, because the way Alex Neil likes Preston to play is on the front foot, in the faces, lots of yellow cards, lots of tackles. So they're not going to sit back and kind of defend deep against West Brom, which means there's probably going to be goals. In the current form, if Preston play on the front foot, I can see West Brom snicking this one. So I'm going to go for away win there. Sorry, Preston fans, and hopefully keeping Ipswich off the bottom as well. Call me biased if you want. Millwall, 22nd at home to Sheffield United. Some really good contests here. All of the top 6 away from home, which always makes it slightly more difficult. Is any trip to Millwall ever easy? I'm not so sure, but Millwall really not living up to the promise of last season. Sheffield United, consistent, started well last year. David McGoldrick looking good, had that great late win against Preston, who we mentioned last week. Have they got enough to go to the Den? Always a tricky place to go. Difficult atmosphere there. Great home fans. And get the win. Let's sit on the fence with this one. I'm going to say this one's going to be a draw. I think Millwall are going to have enough. And if what I read is true, although I think my team, Ipswich, Preston and Millwall, will all be arguing the same thing in the bottom three. Results haven't necessarily translated, but we're coming up 10 games now, so the proof is in the pudding, really. Let's go for a draw, Millwall, Sheffield United. Norwich versus Wigan, 11th versus 5th. Two teams who are certainly in form. Wigan, right from the start of the season, really carrying their form over from last year in League One, and another good win for them. They were in the Friday night game against Bristol City last week and got the win. Norwich had the best week out of anybody in the division. They won all three of their games against Borough, Reading and at QPR at the weekend. So 2 away wins in there. They're back at home. They've got Timu Puki, who probably with Bannon is, informed guy in the division. I hate to say it for my Ipswich Town supporting followers. I've got to go for a home win here. I think it's a 4th win in the row for Norwich, and I think they're going to end the weekend in the top 6 by the look of it. Scary business. Bolton at home to Derby, who the national press obviously loved Derby. They loved Frank Lampard, and they had a field day because Derby won away at Manchester United, mighty Manchester United, Lampard versus Mourinho in the week in the Carabao Cup. They won on penalties. I saw Bolton last weekend. They had Wilson sent off, but they're not short of centre-halves. Wheater will presumably come in for him. Bolton are not a good matchup for Derby. Derby's success seems to be against front foot teams, either pressing or football playing teams. Notice they dispatched Brentford. I think you might get a bit of a hangover here for Derby, and I think Bolton are gnarly and horrible to play against. I think Bolton can squeeze out a draw in this one. I think you're going to see Derby scoring lots of points against top 6 and football-y and pressing teams, and I think they might come a cropper against teams like Rotherham and Bolton, who, no disrespect at all, are difficult to break down and have good defences and good systems in place. Birmingham I'd class the same. So I'm going to go for a draw in this one, and Derby to move on later in the week. Brentford have dropped down to 7th. They were favourites for the division. This is what I say about it being kind of an open gate. Whoever wants to make the sprint and get out to the front, it's cycling every week. It's gone from Brentford to Leeds to West Brom. So Brentford down in 7th now. They did not have a good week. I saw them on Tuesday against Ipswich. It was a 1-1 draw. Nothing has changed. They are beautiful to watch. Absolutely beautiful passing team. I've not seen Leeds, so easily the best I've seen in terms of entertainment value and aesthetic pleasure on my eyes when I'm watching football. But they are known as a team that will give you a chance and a bit of a soft touch. That said, they're at home to Reading, who really, the times I've seen them twice this season have been a massive soft touch, although they had a great win 3-0 at home to Hull this past week. I really cannot see anything other than a Brentford win here. Normally when I say this, it flips the other way, but I don't see how Reading will have the concentration and nous to keep Brentford out. Brentford at Griffin Park really are a hard proposition, and I don't think many teams are going to win there. Home win, Brentford there. Bristol City versus Villa. This is going to be an interesting one. I think they're looking at probably 23 to 25,000 there tonight at Bristol. Always a big crowd come from Villa, so nice big game feel for this one. The narrative says Tammy Abraham goes back to Bristol City, so he should be nailed on for a goal there. But looking at the stats, the narrative is more on Steve Bruce here. 1 win in 8 in all competitions. I think Steve Bruce might need to thank John McGinn last week for scoring that superlative, ridiculous goal for maybe taking the press off of him. But Villa, as I always say, are not going to accept being in 13th place for long. We've got these international breaks coming up. This is a really hard one to call. Bristol City in 8th, Villa in 13th. Neither side in great form. I'm going to go for an away win. I'm going to say on quality, Villa have the better players, and with neither team in amazing form, I think the likes of Grealish and Abraham and Balassi might see Villa through to sneak the away win tonight. I've got to go for an away win somewhere, haven't I? So let's go for Villa in that one. Blackburn versus Forest. This has got draw written all over it. Blackburn 1 defeat. Forest 1 defeat. Karanka and Mowbray in the dugouts. I'm sure if you said shake hands on a 0-0 draw now on a clean sheet and away we go, they'd both take it. So I'm going to go for a draw. Blackburn versus Forest. Neither team to advance themselves too much in the division. There, Swansea down in 14th. Interesting how low Swansea and Stoke are, having come down from the Premier League. Swansea versus QPR. QPR are in great form, but then lost at home to Norwich this past week in the late game on Saturday. Difficult one to call this one. Swansea, like Birmingham, who we'll come on to next, low scoring, high drawing. QPR just slipped out of it a little bit. I think I'm going to give this one a tight home win to Swansea here. I think Swansea might have too much in terms of quality, and Rangers might need to get their form back down in Loftus Road rather than in Wales. Here it comes, Ipswich again. Birmingham 17th versus Ipswich. Birmingham, brilliant win last week away at Leeds. Ipswich are 23rd. They've lost 1 in 4. There's some positivity for you, and they kept their first clean sheet, but they are still without a win. We expected it to be Birmingham and Ipswich without a win, but that surprise result at Leeds put paid to that. The conceived wisdom is Birmingham were where Ipswich were. Good performances, but no wins, whereas Ipswich's performances dropped a little bit, certainly in the Hull games and Bolton game. It's difficult for me not to predict a Birmingham win in this one, but I'm going to go with my heart, not my head. Ipswich might be able to sort out a 0-0 draw here if both sides kind of back off. Birmingham aren't the most prolific in front of goal, so I'm going to go for a hopeful draw, perhaps a 0-0 and another clean sheet for Ipswich. It's baby steps for Paul Hurst, and that first away point would be a very welcome one, with Middlesbrough coming up at home on Tuesday. Difficult times for Ipswich, so go draw in this one. Rotherham versus Stoke is the lowest ranked game of the weekend. 19th versus 18th. I saw Rotherham put on a bit of a masterclass of we're not as good as you, but we're going to beat you against Millwall. They're very well drilled, very tight, 4-5-1. One of my commenters on here tells me Jay's playing very well in that gap in the front. I think the defensive system kind of suits him. He's sweeping everything up. Stoke are a team not in form. Gary Rowett seems to have similar problems Paul Hurst does, getting things going, albeit with a lot better players there at Stoke than Ipswich have. It's not going to be an easy game, but Rowett is no pushover. But then Neil Harris was no pushover, and I saw Millwall lose at Rotherham. Difficult one. I'm going to go with quality again. Sorry, Rotherham, I know your home form's really good and what you're going for. I just think too much quality in that Stoke team. Afobe, Ince, Woods, great players in there. But Rowett is pragmatic, and it's probably a good matchup for him against Rotherham. Let's go for an away win there. So that's about it for all of those games. It's all a bit of fun. If you think you know more about your team than I do, you probably do. So please give me a comment and tell me why you agree or disagree with me. Always interested to learn more about these championship teams so I can improve these predictions. I will be at St Andrews tomorrow, so look out for my match report on Birmingham versus Ipswich. And then I'll be back on Sunday reviewing the action and reviewing these predictions, trying to beat my world record of, I think, 4 correct, which is not great so far. So, but the more weeks we do this, the more chance there'll be. If you enjoy the content, please give me a thumbs up. Even better, please give me a subscribe or a follow on Twitter at Benjamin Bloom. Always interested in chatting to fans of championship teams. Also on the channel, check out the Blue Monday podcast. We're very balanced. And also, if your team is playing against Ipswich, Harry and Richard every Friday do a great preview. So if you're a Birmingham fan or maybe Swansea fan for next week, look out for their preview. A lot of detail on your team that you probably enjoy, and some fair detail on Ipswich too. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again very soon with some more content. Over and out.